we're back.
We're back. I'm Bob Hester, State Director of Arkansas Family Coalition, which brings you this podcast. Welcome back to another podcast of Sobering Truths, and you are?
Iris Stevens, and we've worked together for over 30 years.
Absolutely.
On various issues.
Had a lot of fun.
Had a lot of fun. Been yelled at, but that's okay.
Called everything in the book.
Yes, but that was a lot of fun, and this is a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what we're going to do today is, on the last podcast, I just had time to briefly mention some history of the private club law here in Arkansas. Now, we understand that we're trying to reach all of America with our podcast, and eventually we hope we can do that. But right now, we're familiar with the alcohol issue in Arkansas, and this private club law that they're filling our dry counties with alcohol, using to fill our dry counties with alcohol, is a farce, and it's illegitimate and has been from the word go, and we're going to get into that. And people are asking me all the time, how can they do what they're doing? And I try to explain to them briefly. This is what we're talking about today, is how they get away with it.
It's a history of the wet dry laws in Arkansas,
Yes.
dating back, all the way back to when 1933 Prohibition and stuff.
33, all states, after Prohibition, all states gained the power to
Regulate alcohol themselves.
in the state, each state. And a number of them, I forget how many, about 2/3, opted to have local option to do that, and others said, no, we're just going to do it by state, local option. That's why when they call it local option election, when they have a alcohol issue on the ballot. Anyway, Arkansas was one of the states, and like in 42, the people of Arkansas, through Act 1, initiated Act 1, and this is important. Initiated Act 1 is what? I said, an act of the people. It comes from the people. It's what the people want.
Yes.
And so they passed that, and it gave all Arkansas counties the right to decide whether they wanted alcohol or not. Now, 44 of the Arkansas counties, they voted very wisely, in my book, to be dry, and 31 opted to remain wet. And most of those were in the Delta, I think about 20 of them, and a few scattered around the rest of the state, but most of those were in the Delta. So,
can I interject something?
You absolutely can, anytime you feel like it.
It is interesting to me that the Delta, for more reasons than just alcohol, has always been economically depressed, and you wonder what would have been, if they could have gotten rid of the alcohol, what might have been. Of course, we know that's not the only reason, obviously, but for that area to be so economically depressed and also have the most alcohol of any one local region in Arkansas really makes you think, or it ought to.
If you look at a map and you draw a straight line across where the Delta is down here to the right, it's black. The counties are colored black that have alcohol, and that whole Delta basically is colored, with the exception of a couple of 3 counties, is black.
With alcohol.
With alcohol.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, if you suck all that alcohol out, you wouldn't be having to be help the Delta all the time, because we know what alcohol does. They one of the main.
And now it's also gambling.
Yeah, right. We're all going to get rich with all these things. That's one of the things that the ABC, that people come to the ABC board trying to get these permits. They try to say it's an economic development tool, and I challenge anybody to show me anywhere on earth where alcohol has been an economic development tool. It can't be done. And if that was the case, why don't these restaurants come into Jonesboro, if they want to help economic development? Why don't they go to the Delta?
Yeah, that's
They're not coming here to bring money. They're coming here to get a piece of the pie where the development is strong in the dry counties. Otherwise, they would go to the Delta to help those people. So it's a farce. It's a lie. Everything about alcohol is based on a lie anyway. But anyway, that 44 held true till about 2005, when Marion County opted to go wet, and that's then between then and now, there's been about 13 counties voted to go wet. Did I say Marion County voted to go wet? I might have said dry. Anyway,
wet.
Okay, and so. All those are based on lies. Like I said, anytime that they put out propaganda to.
They tried to sell the counties to go wet to
That's a
change
good
from
way to
dry to
say
wet.
it.
Yes,
Yep.
it was a lie. The
It was a lie.
statistics,
And
we've looked at it. You and I have
we've
looked
got
at it for
them.
years.
We've got them, and we'll get them one of these days on the,
And
on the program.
that's terrible when you lie to people to get them to vote the way that you want to, even, when you know that you're lying.
And they can't do it any other way.
That's true.
They really can't do it any other way. Anyway, and when Winthrop Rockefeller was governor of Arkansas in 1969, he thought that being able to sell alcohol in the dry counties would enhance tourism. It would increase tourism and bring more tourism to Arkansas. So he got busy and introduced Act 132, that's called the Private Club Act or law. And I'll give you the country clubs were already illegally selling alcohol. And he wanted this, and he told the country club, said, "You get behind me on this, or I'll shut you down." So they got on board with him, and the trouble is, this bill did not pass the legislature. It lacked 3 votes. Because it was changing an initiated act of the people, it had to have a supermajority.
Right.
But it lacked 3 votes in the Senate, so it did not pass. But somehow, I don't know how, it became law.
Because when you want it strongly enough, your leadership a lot of times will
Ignore
just
the truth.
ignore the people, they ignore the vote.
The vote. And that's the bottom line. All of this ignores the will and the vote of the people. And that's what happened right there. So, anyway, he proceeded to sign that into law, and just as if it had passed legitimately, which it did not. And it was accepted as law, and these private clubs were allowed to exist in dry counties to sell alcohol, contrary again to the will and the vote of the people. So, initiated act, which was give the people the right to keep their counties and also they could do municipalities and wards and precincts, stuff like that. It could go down to that voting level. It was completely ignored the will and we will emphasize this ever so often. The will and the vote of the people was totally ignored. Okay, just keep in mind that this was illegitimate, and it was challenged twice. Okay, and I'll get back to that a little bit later, and I think you'll find it very interesting what some of these dissenting judges on the cases and some prosecuting attorneys said about this law. Then in 2003, and this is when it really got hairy and really got bad. This is when they opened the floodgates. Act 1813 was passed that allowed alcohol to be sold in large attendance facilities.
No matter what the vote of the county was, whether it was wet or dry.
Again, that was illegitimate. That
Yeah.
was wrong too. But it was supposed to be for large attendance
Right.
facilities only.
Convention centers.
Convention centers
Yeah.
like that to enhance
The attendance.
yeah, what they call it, the governor wanted the tourism.
Yeah.
Help with tourism. Okay, and this in itself, like I said, is illegal because it goes against the initiated act and won the will of the people. Okay, this is a mockery and a bogus interpretation by the ABC Board. In 2004, the ABC Board misinterpreted Act 1813 of 2003, that's when it was passed, Betty Pickett Law, further violating initiated act even in a more ridiculous and blatant fashion.
And I notice you use the word misinterpreted. I'm
Absolutely.
not sure that's the correct word to use
Oh,
because they
really?
did it deliberately. They simply decided how they wanted it to read, and that's how they
But
interpreted it.
they still misinterpreted it. They
Yeah.
interpreted it to mean one thing
Yeah.
when it meant something else.
To me, that means accidentally, but it's a difference in terminology.
Yeah, okay. They did wrong anyway, didn't they?
They did it deliberately.
They did it wrong. Okay, Act 1813 passed the legislature in 2003, and what it did, it added community it added to the private club law the words community hospitality, professional association, entertainment. Now, at a board hearing for the private club in Batesville, I was there, and I've attended more board meetings and film, been to more board meetings than anybody in the state other than the ABC board themselves.
Right.
I've attended many of them.
Yep.
Got to know all those folks real well, and they got to know me real well, and they didn't like me at all. And I didn't like them at all.
But you're such a nice guy,
I
Bob.
know. I don't know how they could not like me, but they didn't. At a board hearing for a private club license in Batesville in January of 2004, and this was your cousin, I believe. Are you mind us saying that?
Yes, it was my cousin. This was my cousin who
and
would.
Josie's was the name of the place.
Yes, who wanted
His-
an alcohol
Alcohol
permit.
private,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, anyway, at that hearing, the board made the interpretation that the addition of these 5 words to the law means they can legally grant a non-profit, listen to these words, non-profit private club license to a for-profit public restaurant.
Yeah, totally.
How do you do that? How do you do
can't-
that?
No,
Magic.
it is totally
Magic.
Yeah, no, it is totally anti what the words actually
Absolutely, the
say.
opposite.
It's like saying the word red is actually the word blue.
Absolutely. Incredible. It's so unbelievable. That's why if I sound angry about it, I'm angry about it. And
Well, and see, if a lot of people had really stepped up at any one of these points and said, no, this wouldn't be happening. You know, our vote is protected. When we vote for something, you're supposed to stand for that. And this was, I remember this one. I remember the setup because I was working with you, of course, at that time.
Right. Well, listen to this. Now, Ron Fuller was the chairman of the ABC board. And at that hearing, he made this statement. Now, he was trying to cover himself. He said, I think the legislature passed that thing, meaning the Betty Pickett law, the Act 1813, 100 to zip. In other words, 100%. And the Senate did very much the same, and it went right on through, so we operate under what they send us. Big lie, big lie. I don't know if he was just ignorant of the facts or he purposely lied.
I'm sorry, I'm not fond of Mr. Fuller, so I take the worst interpretation.
Well, this statement by ABC Chairman Ron Fuller seems to imply that the legislature actually gave them a mandate. Oh, well, we got to do this because the legislature. So he's taking it as a mandate to trying to convince people that the legislature gave him a mandate. But what had really happened at the legislature, the truth is Act 1813 only passed the legislature by 1 vote. In the House, it was 63. 51 would have made it in the House, but it passed by 63, which would be 63%. And in the Senate, 18, and that's one less vote, and he would have failed. So it was not 100 to zip, even close to what he said. Mm-hmm. So one vote less in the Senate, as I said, would have failed. Okay, the senator who sponsored this bill, and I don't recall who that was. It was it's got a bill name, and then when it becomes law, it becomes an act. It was House Bill 2749, which become Act 1813. So we'll refer to it mostly as Act 1813. And the Senate has stated that he did not make the same interpretation as did the board. Now that's the senator who sponsored this.
Who wrote the bill?
Wrote the bill, sponsored it, knew what he
intended when he wrote the bill.
Okay, another senator who voted for the bill wrote a letter to the board telling them that Act 1813 was never intended to allow the board to grant alcohol permits to public for-profit clubs. He encouraged the board to re-examine your present misguided interpretation of the law. Now, I want to show you that letter right here. This is it right here. The Alcoholic Beverage Control Board has taken this language and has been applying it to situations that were never contemplated. The act was never intended to allow the board to grant alcohol permits to public for-profit restaurants in dry counties when the law clearly provides for private non-profit clubs. I encourage you and the board to re-examine your present misguided interpretation of the law and hopefully will discontinue the policy of disregarding the plain language of so-and-so and legislative intent. This was Senator Denny Altus. They wrote that letter right to the board.
Yes, and the board just ignored it and did whatever they wanted to do, which we see that now in so many areas where it doesn't make any difference what the law reads. It doesn't make any difference what the people want. The board does what it wants to. Sometimes the judiciary does what it wants to, and people's wishes are just ignored. And that's what this is all about.
That's exactly what this is all about, 100%. Okay, State Senator Chris Steyer, or State Representative Chris Steyer of Jonesboro, who is also an attorney, he voted in favor of this Act 1813, and he interprets the law very differently than what the board did. And I have a copy of an article, a KIT story that quotes him. He says, let's see if I got the right one here. Yeah. Opponents of liquor are fearful that every restaurant applying for a license will now be granted. Piero's, let's get here, State Representative Chris Thayer of Jonesboro, who is also an attorney, voted in favor of this. He interprets the law differently, as I said. People from my mother on down the line, he was taking heat from
Oh,
this.
yeah, he was.
So people from my mother on down the line have called me saying, Chris, you voted for liquor by the drink at Piero's. No, I didn't, said Thayer. I voted for this particular law that would allow for alcohol in convention centers and other large establishments like that to help them promote tourism.
So it's what the legislature actually thought they were voting on.
Exactly, but that's not what the ABC board wanted. So Thayer says, well, I don't think that's relevant there. Okay. Just a second here. Did I get everything on that? Yeah. Okay. With this act, which is clearly illegitimate, the ABC board is filling our dry counties, again, against the will of the people, with alcohol, beer, wine, hard liquor. It's not just wine or beer, whatever. It's a hard liquor, with absolutely no recourse for the people. So, is that true?
Now, are you sure about that?
Well,
Did you ever go to ABC board hearings?
That's what we're going to talk about here. I'm glad you noticed that.
Yeah, because I was down there a few times too.
Right. The decision to recognize for-profit public restaurants as private, non-profit clubs was not made by the voters of Arkansas or even their elected representatives. It was made by a select board of unelected bureaucrats. No concern for the vote of the people. It's irrelevant what the people think.
The legislature
They couldn't
writes
care
the
less.
law, the unelected bureaucrats write the regulations, and
Right.
that's where this came from.
Exactly. But there was an attempt to give the power back to the people. And in order to take this power away from the ABC board, a state senator, Eddie Joe Williams, he was from Cabot, got Act 1112 passed. And this law allows city councils and quorum courts in dry counties to pass or reject an alcohol permit request. Now, this gives control back to the local representatives instead of the 5 unelected bureaucrats on a board in Little Rock. Now, I have the letter that he sent to me. He said, my reasoning for sponsoring Senate Bill 623 of 2017 was to provide local control. The approval of a private club should start with the local jurisdiction of the city or county, as this is the area the club would serve and impact, the local officials, so and so. So he wanted to give and why did he do, what was his reason for doing that? He just out of the blue decided he wanted to do this? Let me tell you why he wanted to do this. He had his own experience with the ABC board. He was the mayor of Cabot, and somebody had made application for a private club permit, and he went down there as the mayor and opposed it. And I was there, and I filmed it and all that. And they ignored him just like they ignored everybody else. And so he had, and I think probably mocked him like they would actually mock people.
Yeah, I was down there where they were just ugly to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tax-paying, voting citizens.
Yes, that they should have been representing
Yes.
and not making fun of.
Yes.
But anyway, so he had his own experience with them. So when he later on became a senator, and then he got this bill passed, and what it did, it gave the local local control back. Now there is a problem there when you don't have local people elected officials who will represent the people who also do not care about the vote and will of the people. And Jonesboro, Arkansas has got almost a full council of people who could care less about the vote of the people, because they put these things in. They've put probably, since they've had opportunity to stop these things, I think they've probably put about 20 of them in.
Well, we have right now, I saw the stats for that. Now, I'm not sure if it goes all the way to like the cities, Lake City and some of the other surrounding townships. 77 alcohol permits in Jonesboro, Arkansas. We're at least,
Right.
we're talking about 77. How many of those, there may be a few of them outside the city of Jonesboro. They pass almost every one. As a matter of fact, I can't think of the last one that they denied. Now, the county has denied one.
Right.
But
County's denied 2.
well, 2, yes. Yeah. I was thinking, yeah. The county has denied a couple, but the city, I do not remember them denying it.
No.
And these are people who were elected to support the laws that people passed in Craighead County and in Jonesboro.
Yeah. And what, 70 something 2-1 vote?
76, I believe it was 76,
76
2-1 vote against
against
alcohol.
alcohol.
Then in 2014,
14, I believe it
they
was.
couldn't even get enough signatures to run it,
So-
on the petition.
So obviously we know what the will of the people is, but does the city council give a rip?
No.
No,
No.
they do not. And
They basically do not listen. You
No.
come to them and protest it because I have, you have, other people have. They basically look at you and, of staring at, and then let you go, and they do
as
exactly
if you
what they
were
want.
never there.
Exactly.
As if
exactly.
you were never there. It makes you feel like.
And if I were really ugly about the ABC board and all of these groups and whatnot, I would wonder how much money is being exchanged for these. Now, I know that's an insulting suggestion, but I would just have to wonder, because for
Right.
what purpose
Right.
is it that you stick your eye in
Why
your
do
thumb
you
in
not
people's
care?
eyes?
Why do you not care what
Yeah,
the people
and why
want?
do you 77 permits, even if it's 60
Well-
inside the city? How much alcohol do you need inside an area of Jonesboro?
There was probably about 50 something there, so they've been responsible for at least 20. But like I say, I don't think they've turned. They may have turned one down. I don't know if they
I
did
don't
or not.
remember any, but-
I don't either. If they have,
Why
it
do you
wouldn't
keep
have
saying
been
20?
because the ABC
I
will
just
put
got,
the
I
ABC.
just got a list the other day that had something like 50
No,
on
no,
it.
the 50 will come through the ABC board. The local control didn't start till
Okay,
later
so you're
on.
talking about doing
So
local
for the,
control.
Yeah, the city council was only responsible for putting somewhere in the vicinity of 20. I don't know what the number is. I just picked a
So
number.
when they saw a definite need, even though there are already 50 here. They saw a need for more alcohol.
One of the criteria that the ABC board uses for determining whether to grant a permit is whether the area is adequately served. Well, if it was not adequately served by the 50 before the city council started putting them in, it would never be adequately served.
Exactly.
We need one on every corner.
Exactly, and of course that's
it
what
still
some
wouldn't
people
be adequately
want.
served. Yeah,
That's
that's
what some
apparently
people
what they want because that's what
They don't want to
ended
walk
up
more than
with.
10 feet
Yeah,
to be able to,
right,
and which
right.
is idiotic because we all know what problems they cause.
Exactly. Okay, now this back to the challenge that I mentioned earlier. This Act 132 by Rockefeller was challenged. It was challenged twice. First time was challenged by the residents of Boone County in 1977. And this case went to the Arkansas Supreme Court, which dismissed the case, brought by the people. The people challenged it because the people wanted what they voted for. And there was a vote of 4-3. Four senators voted, four judges on the Arkansas Supreme Court said it was legitimate. 3 said it was not. And so it was basically upheld by one judge overruled the vote of the people
Yes,
in this case.
and we've
Yeah,
seen that here
yeah.
the last few years to an unbelievable extent. But it was happening in Arkansas back
Yes.
then.
Oh,
back
absolutely,
then.
absolutely. So the second challenge was in 1983 from Lawrence County, and Frank Lady from Jonesboro was the attorney in that case. And it was called the Morris versus Torch Club. And this case was also dismissed by a 4-3 vote of the judges. And again, it was upheld. It was upheld because of that 4-3. It was upheld as being law.
Did they not read all the material
well-
you've just been talking about?
Let's listen to what these dissenting judges say about this thing. I think they can shed some pretty good light on this situation. So you have the majority opinion, which determines the outcome of the case, and then you have the dissenting opinion. And here's the dissenting judges, what they asserted. Quote, the exact quote, "The majority has read our decision to be an abandonment of any intention to enforce initiated Act 1 of 1942. Now, continuing to quote them, "The majority, judges, tries to finesse the tough question that is what about the liquor dispensed by these clubs to guests, who are either given a drink or pay for it. Such a practice clearly violates the law, and it is a general practice in all the clubs. Every time a guest is served, the law is violated. The majority has no answer to this question, the majority of judges, except to say it cannot read the law that way, while it does read that way."
Yeah, it's in black and white.
Black
literally.
and white. I mean, you'd have to be an idiot not to, or not care,
illiterate.
or not
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want what you want rather than what the
Exactly.
people want.
Okay, still quoting the minority. "There is no doubt private clubs can exist, and possession and consumption of intoxicating liquors are not prohibited, but sales are. So nobody's questioning the fact that they can be there.
Right.
But they cannot sell. But they do sell. That's what they're there for in the first
Exactly.
place. And this was before this 2003 law was passed.
basically opened the gates.
But you're right. This was when you had what some of them Eagles and the VFW and the Moose and stuff like
Right.
that. They were legitimate private clubs, but they were still breaking the law.
Because they were selling it rather than giving it away.
Okay, the facts, and this is still quoting the dissenting judges, the facts are that all the clubs violate the law in letter and in spirit. The so-called revolving fund is a charade. The clubs sell their members drinks, so that the club sells their members drinks. So what we have are a multitude of clubs that exist that sell intoxicating liquor in violation of Initiated Act 1, against the will and the vote of the people.
Yeah.
Okay. The dissenting judges concluded the following: I would reverse the trial judge and hold that on the facts developed, Initiated Act 1 is being violated by private clubs. Now, I want to read you a couple of other things here that won't take long about this. There's a couple of prosecuting attorneys here in Jonesboro. They're both judges now, and what they said about this. The first one is Scott Ellington, and he said, they always request letters from the sheriff, from the chief of police if it's in town,
Yes.
maybe the representatives, and the prosecuting attorney, and they say prosecuting attorney. Anyway, so that's the reason for these letters. And so this is Scott Ellington. He says, this was back in 2011. My objection is to the law that creates an artificial distinction permitting the sale of alcohol in a dry county. Craighead County, by vote of its electorate, chose many years ago to be dry. The dealing with the issuance of private club permits recognizes it is against the law to sell alcohol in a dry county. I'm going to read this whole thing here. It's just one more paragraph. The law allowing for issuance of these permits is premised on the distinction between this is almost comical. If it wasn't so sad, it'd be comical. The law allowing for the issuance of these permits is premised on the distinction between dispensing alcohol for money, which is presumably legal, and selling alcohol for money, which is clearly illegal.
That's idiotic.
Such a distinction is, in my opinion, an effort to create an imaginary distinction to avoid the impact of the clear letter of the law, which is that alcohol cannot be sold in a county voted dry. Even the proponents for allowing the issuance of such permits would not argue with a straight face that the very reason such permits are sought is to obtain the right to sell alcohol in a dry county and for certain people to have the right to buy. My position, and that's basically it right there. So, and here is when Brent Davis was prosecuting attorney, he's also a judge now. He did a guest editorial on this. And it's real good. And I'm just going to read a couple of short paragraphs of this. He says, how can one law provide for a county's voters to choose to make it illegal to sell alcohol, and yet another law create an agency, the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board, with the authority to issue permits allowing private clubs to sell alcohol in a dry county? The simple answer is it can't, or at least it can't if what a private club does is sell alcohol. Regardless of how the General Assembly may want to characterize such a transaction, it is a sale or purchase of alcohol under any common sense definition. The reason the legislature defines this as something other than the sale of alcohol is because they could not legislatively legalize the sale of alcohol in a county which had voted to be dry. Maybe one day I will figure out the distinction between the sale of alcohol and the dispensing of alcohol for a charge.
I'm like you. If it weren't so frustrating, it would be funny. It's basically it's toddlers. I want it. So I don't care what the vote is. I'm going to vote for it because I want it. My friends want it, and so regardless. And I would like to look at the other laws that they would like to do that too.
It's like something from a sitcom, almost.
Yeah. It's just so
ridiculous.
serious. And it's such an abrogation of our basic fundamental rights. The right to vote, to determine how your area is going to be run.
And that's the basic problem, the thing that irked us so bad, that we don't have power. That our power has been taken away by bureaucrats and by judges.
Well, it's like having a board saying, okay, you elected Fred Smith for mayor, but we're saying Fred Smith is not appropriate, so we're going to stick in Bill Brown for mayor.
Right.
It's, when you take this to this logical results, you get all sorts of really ugly situations here. Right here, it's alcohol, and we don't have a lot of people complain because secretly they like alcohol.
Yeah.
Their friends like alcohol, so they're not going to complain, but they would if it were on any other subject. If it were any
Absolutely.
other issue, they would complain to, high heaven.
We so accepted alcohol. It's just, and even and I think a lot of the churches, a lot of Christian people, it's just a part of life, and they don't give it a second thought anymore.
Right, yeah.
We're a culture of
Yes,
alcohol.
exactly.
And you say something about alcohol, what's the matter with you? That's that.
Well, I don't mind having a drink or
Yeah,
two after work.
What's
No big
the
deal.
problem? Well, we're going to show you we are showing with this podcast and other things. We are trying to show you the problem, so you will get concerned about it and try to do something about it. Because then there are things we can do, and we will get into that in later podcast. But
Well, part of the problem is I don't understand people's willingness to accept having their votes
Yeah.
basically tossed in the
Yeah.
trash. When I vote, it's a serious issue. I study who I'm going to vote for. I study the policies. And when I vote, by Jiminy, if I lose, I lose. But when I win, I want those policies followed. And what bothers me are people that have had their votes tossed in the trash can and, well, I like a drink now and then, so I don't care what's happened to my vote.
well, it's the basis of your freedom.
Exactly.
And you don't have that, you have nothing.
Exactly.
And so that's what we don't.
And we're seeing, with the alcohol, we see one here, but look how this has actually spread to a lot of different areas.
Do you have, should we bring up this thing in Jonesboro, what happened where the vote on they passed the tax without the vote of the people?
Well, I think it's, because the athletic complex, and I don't remember the name of it, frustrates me so much. That vote, originally, there were a lot of us who went up and said, no, this is not good, because they wanted to initiate a tax, and they did. And we went and fought it. Well, the problem is they just ran it right over the top of us because they could for a legal loophole. What's it called? I wasn't planning on doing this today, so
Well,
it starts with an A. It's Advertising and Promotion
Yes.
Bureau were given a legal loophole to pass a tax at that time that could go without a vote of the people. And they did. They passed a 2% vote of the people for any kind of prepared foods. You go to the hamburger places or you go to Walmart and get a rotisserie chicken, you're paying a 2% tax on that to pay for an athletic complex. Now, I'm not going to get into the discussion of that today, but that's the same kind of
Same
situation.
thing.
It was so egregious that the legislature came back in and said, no, that will not happen again. And so the legislature passed a law that no tax can be raised like that, like this one was done without a vote of the people.
yeah, and basically people don't understand what's being done to them, do they?
No, they don't.
They really are
People
in
have
the
so
dark
pulled,
about it.
Yeah, they won't talk about it.
Yeah.
It's not covered in the media. The media
Right.
covers one side, and with this advertising and promotions tax, the coverage was all positive, 100% positive, because what they were going to do was so wonderful. Well, they're in the process now of spending millions of dollars doing this thing. It's going to be a boondoggle, and I'll put that out there. And anybody, in 10 years, let's see whether I'm right or not.
Right.
No, I'll say in 5 years, let's see. People don't pay attention to what's
No,
done,
they
and
don't.
I think it's because they feel powerless.
Absolutely. So many people will have told me, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
There's nothing
Yeah,
you can do.
exactly.
And as long as we believe there's nothing we can do, there will be nothing we can do.
Exactly, and look at the voting rates. The voting
Right.
rates have plummeted
And
at this
when
point.
you see stuff like this, it is discouraging. Well, what difference does it make?
Exactly.
But anyway, I want to cover this ABC board. I've got 5 cases here, and I was there, and I probably got these on film, and I have put some of them on the YouTube, so some of them can be accessed probably through the internet to prove that it was hopeless to go before the ABC board. And Eddie Joe Williams, a senator that passed that bill to give the right back to the
local control.
local control, had, like I said, he had his own experience, and so he knew that something needed to be done. And see if you agree with me when you get through hearing these. This is the case in Batesville that we mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Okay. We had the state senator was opposed. The sheriff was opposed. The prosecuting attorney opposed. 4 city councilmen opposed. 3 testified in person. A justice of the peace testified in person against the permit. Retired fire chief and public safety officer with 29 years of public safety against it. 3 other citizens testified against it. 3,200 letters or signatures on petitions were presented in opposition. Okay, now listen to all these people that are for it. a bunch of folks for it here. State representative wrote a letter, only official in favor. No other official, elected official, was in favor. Only people testifying was 5 prominent citizens, none of them elected officials. All gave weak and pathetic excuses for granting the permit, and I have those transcribed, and they were one of them was, well, I just want to drink. I just like to be able to drink. That was his pathetic
Yeah, I
reason.
want to go and have a steak and drink.
Right, yeah, and another one was, well, he's the only one that Carpenter's the only one that could make a success of this, whatever. Just pathetic excuses. Five people and one state representative against all these things. You got it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was unanimous or not, but they played these little games down there, I think, and they figured
Yes.
they always managed to come up with 3 votes.
Yeah.
And so
Enough to pass it, but there'll be 1 or 2 votes
exactly.
against
And the
it.
next
so
time, the other
be the other ones,
Be the other
right.
ones. Yeah. So play these little games.
who are you? Which one of us is going to vote no this time?
And they do something that they shouldn't be doing. They all meet. I don't think they're supposed to do that. I think that's illegal. They all go in there in a coffee room or whatever and meet beforehand, because I've been in there before. And when they were doing it, and I don't think that's actually
This is
legal
so
for them to do.
corrupt.
Oh,
This is so
corrupt from
corrupt.
yeah. And okay, the brick house in the brick house in Jonesboro. Okay, the total of 16 elected officials were opposed to it. The prosecuting attorney against it, sheriff against it, Craighead County judge against it, 6 mayors in Craighead County against it. It's my phone, man. Steve, 7 quorum court members against it, and 180 petition signatures in opposition. And those in favor, no elected official was in favor. 1 former representative in favor. The information he testified was misleading. A former candidate for governor, his testimony was also flawed and misleading, and I could have that. I have that on film. And only 70 letters of petition signatures. So 70 letters. Former governor candidate, a former representative, as opposed to 4,180 petition signatures in opposition, 7 court members, 6 mayors in the county, of the city county.
And that's why
Do
people
you
quit
think?
calling.
Do you
Yeah.
do you think they deny that?
That's unbelievable. And like I said, that shows such corruption there. And who was getting paid off? I'm sorry, that may be an ugly thing to say. There has to be something there.
Something's bad wrong in that, and the Caliente Club in DeQueen, that's down South Arkansas. 2 state senators wrote letters of opposition. Sheriff sent a letter of opposition. Prosecuting attorney sent a letter of opposition. Quorum court unanimously passed a resolution opposing it. Chief deputy was opposed. Chief of police was opposed. All residents on the road where the club was located were opposed. 1,300 letters and signatures of opposition. And the opposition was castigated for not having.
Would you? I can't do
Sorry,
that.
folks. We'll just get this thing off right quick.
It's a pretty tone, but we don't need it while we're
Okay.
talking.
So, no elected. Okay. Those in favor. No elected official was in favor. A former county judge was in favor. 1,307 names were on a petition were in favor, and many of those, because you could get a list of those names, and I would check them out. And many of those were likely from out of the county, and some maybe even out of the state, as opposed to the quorum court unanimously passed a resolution. Chief deputy opposed, chief of police opposed, all residents were the club on the road. Sheriff sent a letter of opposition. Prosecutor, did they grant it?
Yeah, of course they did.
They granted it.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? I mean,
Yes, I can believe it, because to me, I was down there at times. People just quit going because there was no reason to take to work up, to go down to Little Rock, to spend half a day or a day, to come back, because they were going to okay it no matter what.
I have seen people go in there in one meeting, and they'd start to get up and say, "There's no need of coming down here anymore."
There wasn't any.
There was not.
Especially
And people-
when you saw them treat people so ugly.
Exactly, very bad. And then they turn around and say, "Well, nobody comes down and opposes these anymore, so they must be okay with them."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And okay, I got 2 more here, and this is a little town in Bassett over here in Mississippi County. It's a wet county, but they voted the town. I think I helped them vote that little town dry. The mayor was opposed. The city clerk opposed and testified in person. 70 of the 180 citizens, virtually all registered voters in Bassett, signed petitions opposing. About 30 nearby residents outside of Bassett opposed. And those in favor, Only 6 Bassett residents and 29 nearby residents were in favor. 265 other people signed a petition in favor. Okay, I looked at those. 83 gave no address, 36 from other counties. The remainder were from 2 to 16 miles away in places where they already had alcohol outlets. Passed it, granted it. One more. Amy's Place in Lincoln County. Prosecuting attorney testified in person against it. Deputy prosecutor against it. County judge testified in person against it. Sheriff against it. Lincoln County Quorum Court unanimously opposed. 700 petition signatures in opposition. Those in favor, 174 signatures in favor. That's all.
Yep.
They granted it.
Yeah.
That's why Eddie Joe Williams did what he did.
Yeah.
And people just quit going down to Little Rock because they knew there was no way on earth.
Yeah. They loved liquor, and they were going to get it everywhere they could.
They were good. Yeah.
I think the local, what they did was sending it back to the local city councils and things. That was possibly good, because what we could do is people who pass it, we can vote them out.
And I'm sure that was
that was the intention.
Intention right there, because they're more responsible to the local people. People have control.
Right.
I mean, 5 elected officials, unelected bureaucrats in Little Rock. The only one has any. By the way, we did get one guy kicked off of the board.
Yeah.
I won't give his name, but he was from Texas originally. But we had enough connection, showed that he was connected to alcohol enough that
Right.
the governor, we met with the governor, and the governor pulled him off. And there's some others he should have pulled off too, I'm sure. But we did get the one off. But this is what we're facing here. And then again, the sad thing when you have the local control and your people that especially ought to be representing the people, and they don't do a thing.
And Bob, to emphasize that they don't do anything, there is a way to get alcohol legally in your county. If you want it, there is a way to do that legally. You
Sure.
do it a petition process.
Exactly.
But what they're doing, what these alcohol forces are doing it illegitimately by going through these processes. Yes, it is illegitimately, because you've showed us about the law, how that worked, years ago and everything. And so they're still doing it illegitimate, even when your local groups are doing it.
That's right. It's bogus. It's illegal. It's not
And that's
right.
what we said at the quorum court the other night. If you want,
exactly.
want alcohol, do an initiative process and vote it in.
And it's just like I came up and slapped you in the face. It may be worse than that, what they're doing to us.
Yeah, it really is, based on our votes.
Just they don't care. They could care less. And
Yeah.
So
This has been
folks,
longer.
what?
I said this has been a long podcast.
I don't know how long it's been, but I hadn't been able to keep up with the time. But I guess we need to shut it down now. And
Well, at least I think you've done a great job of showing us where all this began and why some of us haven't such an objection.
Exactly.
It's not just the alcohol, it's the violation of our rights to vote in the way that we want a city or county to be run. Because it was overwhelmingly voted on, and then for other people, especially unelected bureaucrats, to destroy that is wrong.
It's totally wrong. Well, we hope you enjoyed the program. Hope you learned. Again, this was from here in a situation here in Arkansas, and I would assume similar situations are happening in other states with alcohol. And so keep your eyes and ears open and pay attention to what's going on, because your vote many times is being ignored, and you're not getting what you voted for and not getting what you want. So I guess that's about it, Iris. You got anything to end with?
Nope.
Let's draw attention to.
If you want to comment, make a comment where this shows up on whatever internet situation this is.
And don't forget a little free booklet here that tells you a whole lot about alcohol. And contact us at 8702. What is the number there, Iris? At 870-910-0464, and we will be glad to give you as many books as you'd like to have to give to your church or wherever. And we thank you for being with us today.